industry, will be closed. I want to adopt an examination technique. I'll make my submissions very quickly and then go to the justifications for the submissions. The distinguished member here has started it all. The capital market literacy is key if we must realize the objectives of this capital market master plan. And in line with that, my first submission is that we can, before the capital market committee that I talked about, we can, in the interim, since we have an implementation council, we can expand the composition of the implementation council to include the representatives from the National Assembly, the Ministry of Education, for example, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Budget and National Planning. So we can expand the scope of the implementation council for the purpose of driving some of these initiatives. The second thing I have here is that we can, just as he has said, lobby to include financial studies at a lower level, maybe at the level of secondary school. We can include financial studies, in the curriculum of secondary school, program. I'm not talking about infusion, because there's a difference between infusion and introducing and standalone subjects. Because what I understand that is happening now is an attempt to infuse financial studies into the curriculum of secondary school program. In other words, including it as part of the already existing subjects. At the higher level, we can make it a capital market studies and have it as a GNS or GST course for all entrance, 100-level students that are entering the universities.
Essentially, what you are saying is that we need to have a very strong awareness and educational platform for us to achieve the objectives of this master plan.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I will come back to you. Yes.
Thank you so much. At our own end, the only way to make this plan a reality is to restore investors' confidence. And to do that, there has to be a robust legislation and a good adjudicatory body that will really watch what the market is doing. A lot of individuals have made a lot of loss in the capital market that they don't want to hear the name of capital market anymore, because they've made a lot of loss in the previous time. That is caused by lack of good legislation and lack of good educatory platform. So if this plan is to succeed, there has to be a good legislation. Apart from the legislation, there has to be an enforcement. An enforcement where if anybody defaults, there's certainly going to be a remedy within the shortest possible time. Like what we are now doing in IST, where our cases are where cases in capital market are determined within 30 days, within 90 days from commencement of the hearing to the end, within 30 days. So if you can have these kind of things in place, it will really encourage investors, and the market will move forward, and we're going to realize this 2015 goal of master plan. Thank you.
Andrew, let's have your perspective. I'm sure you have experiences of where master plans have been designed, developed in other jurisdictions, and how they went about it. My own concern is buy-in at virtually all the levels, particularly the executive at the highest level. Today we're having very interesting buy-in and support from the National Assembly. But we also need buy-in at the federal executive level, at the judiciary level, because policies will have to be made. If laws are made, there are policies, there are issues of funding, etc., and putting the capital market as a very central machine to drive our economy. Because right now in Nigeria, most policies are bank-driven instead of market-driven. How do we begin to change those kind of perceptions? Yes, Andrew.
I think unhelpfully, the only recent example I can think of a successful implementation of a full capital markets regime as Dubai and the UAE. And of course there you didn't need a lot of buy-in, all you needed was Sheikh Mohammed deciding what to do and then funding it. So that's a great example, but it doesn't really work in a democracy where you do need to have your buy-in from all of your stakeholders. But again, I mean, what is encouraging is the number of stakeholders who are here, the impetus from the legislature to push ahead with the agenda. It always slightly the thing I struggle is here's the master plan, or what exactly are we changing? What are the laws that are required? Everyone talks about putting laws and legislation. What are we actually talking about? Who's responsible for actually drafting those? That's the kind of thing which I think you can start, and apologies, maybe at the back of the master plan, as to exactly what is the legislation which is going to be required to be changed. And then who's taking responsibility for actually doing that? You know, where are the stakeholders? Where are the trade associations who are involved either on the banking side or the capital markets side? You know, what can they be doing by way of suggesting legislation and or commenting on drafts which come through? There's a huge role played in both the US and in Europe with the trade associations participating. Now, you need to be careful because the trade associations and obviously will go for their own agendas, but that is maybe one area which you can be pushing to. Where is this legislation going to come from?
Okay.
And can I just, one other point which I think I have seen around the world is it's very hard for regulators to step back from regulation. Once they have a regulatory power, giving that up is somehow seen as a step back and a deregulation. That's not the case. I think what could be very helpful is a critical reassessment of what are these regulations for, who are they protecting, and do I need them in this modern environment?
Thank you. Let me come to the marketplace. Haruna.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start with maybe a question, and probably I would answer it. I don't know how many people have read the appropriation bill this year or have seen it. The appropriation bill probably weighs more than Hajar Adiola here in terms of weight. So which means there's a lot of documentation and a lot of information inside there that came out of the National Assembly. But if you go through that particular documentation, the reference to capital market is no more than a page. For those who have read it, the reference to the capital market is no more than a page. When the CBN governor and the Monetary Policy Committee, I think it's called, sit down and they make policies or make pronunciations, there is hardly any consultation, if at all, with the capital market stakeholders. If there is, it's very little. Maybe they call Munir the day before or after, or call Oscar and say, if at all, Oscar will probably call them, or Munir will probably call them. Now, what I'm saying is, there is a disconnect between policy making, especially around financial systems in Nigeria, and the capital market. And once you continue to have that situation, the capital markets will continue to be in the burner. But we've heard everybody say that the capital market is a catalyst for developmental growth in any society, in any market, or in any economy. Yet, here we are, always talking about these things, and yet the inclusion there is very little, if at all. Yesterday, Yellen came out and made the pronunciations around Brexit, which is that there will be consequences for financial markets if Britain leaves the EU. Yellen is Federal Reserve Chair. Yellen is consistently talking about capital markets and protecting capital markets because she understands, not just in the US, that globally capital markets are a significant input or a particular relevance to economies